Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the GameHub. I'm your host GamerK, and it's time for the final video of the month of August. And we will be going back to school a little bit early to count down all the greatest duels throughout the school year. Yes, to my last year's top 13 Yu-Gi-Oh! Duels of the original series, excluding the BS from the Duelist Kingdom arc and the Virtual Reality World arc, I will be going into the amazing sequel of the series, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. And considering I can't put it on my arm because it's too annoying, I've decided to have my Duel Academy Duel Disc front and center as an aesthetic option. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll start putting stuff up there from now on. And just decorate the place up a little bit. Now, going over a couple of the rules. Actually, now that I think about it, this video is technically about school, and it's the end of summer, and my first video for September is all technically a school-related video. It's always good when things work out. So, for this video, I will be going over all the duels in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX that really made me actually enjoy the duels, and some of them may be kind of predictable because the main hero usually always wins once in a while, you know, without cheating or manipulation or some BS. But all in all the duels present are honestly all my favorites from the series. So that's a big rule. It's my kind of picks. And also, I am going to refrain from viewing any of the duels after the alternate dimension arc, because those weren't dubbed. I barely watched them, and all honesty, going into watching them, I couldn't pick a duel that actually had me actually enjoying it as much as I'm thinking, okay, can we stop talking about darkness for a minute and get to the battle? I mean, what is this, Kingdom Hearts? So, it is time for GamerK's Top 13 GX Duels. And why Top 13? Because here at the Game Hub, only the odd can be number one. Hit it! Starting off the list is honestly a Season 2 duel. And it's one that's... one thing I love about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is no matter what type of characters they can come up with, they usually take reference from a whole bunch of actual media. And at least they never made an Elvis-type character before. Oh, right. I forgot about you. I mean, at least, okay, yes, they made an Elvis character, but hell, at least they didn't make a reference on Jeff Bridges' The Big Lebowski. Seriously? Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. Okay, getting on to the duel in hand, they took reference from game shows, and I love it when the anime can make duels that are actually enjoyable and kind of have a different gimmick. And it makes me think, why weren't these cards made into an actual set instead of, you know, the cards that are legitimate bull and no one plays? The duel between Jaden and Bob Banter is at the bottom of the list, mostly because it's kind of predictable of what's going to happen, but at the same time, it's really enjoyable, and I really loved it. Bob uses a game show type deck using quiz panel cards of Raw, Slifer, and Obelisk. Every time Jaden destroys one, he has to either answer a question, perform a physical activity, or something really odd. And honestly, that's pretty good if no one knows that much about Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, yeah, you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So, but in a duel where in a kind of a weird thing where Jaden sucks at paying attention in school, this is an actual rule or a deck that would have led to his downfall. Like, a lot of the questions are, what are the 3 cards needed to use the trap? Huge Revolution. How many animals are on the big March of Animals? What else? Any, like, physical challenges, like do 10 push-ups, drink water in a certain amount of time. I know that's for the anime, but it's honestly pretty cool. And watching all the cards kind of change the game a little bit, it's pretty enjoyable. And for all you guys know, Bob Banter is basically a ripoff of Bob Barker, obvious game show host. So the duel is fun. It's predictable, but the little gimmick that they do really bring a little bit of enjoyment to it. So I'll take what is next for 500, Alex. Season 3 was honestly rushed to no end. And it kind of made me annoyed with it right from the get-go. Even though the new characters who came in were pretty cool, there is one duel that I really enjoyed to be put near the bottom of the list, is the battle between Jim Crocodile Cook, as everyone can say, the best Aussie in all of anime, and versus Hasselberry. During the story, Hasselberry goes a little crazy because of his dino DNA. Plot point! And battles Jim, who uses a fossil deck. And all honesty, I'm like, oh great, it's just going to be another dinosaur fight. And then Jim pulls out some pretty impressive moves, and I really enjoyed it. Using his dinosaur deck against him in order to fusion summon his fossil monsters was kind of a cool comeback. And I'm still waiting for Jim's full deck. Come on, people, let's get to it. In all honesty, this duel, I honestly thought it was going to go the other way. And I do enjoy that they came up with something really interesting, using your opponent's graveyard to fuse with yours using fossil fusion. And Jim, really, really cool character, and him defeating Hasselberry in the end. It wasn't a big victory or anything really huge. It was one of those, duels in the beginning of the season, just so you can see Jim's deck, basically, and all the little kids wanting the cards in real life, only for years later for them now to be in print. So, really fun duel. Sucks that it was kind of short, and we did see Jim duel more later on, but it wasn't none of them were ever epic enough. So, you did good, mate, but not good enough. The next one on the list comes to us from Season 1. Honestly, one of my most underrated favorite characters from the GX series, Chaz. He was the snarky, typical Kaiba character, the rich snob who looks down on the slifer slacker and constantly gets his butt whooped by him. And I did enjoy him after he came back to Duel Academy, after the school duel. Especially with his little Ojama buddy being a little pain in the behind. But the battle with his brother is really special in my opinion. His brothers Jagger and Slade are trying to buy Duel Academy, and they challenge Chaz to a duel with a stipulation. They're allowed to use all the rare cards which are basically all dragon monsters, given how the duel transcribed, that Chaz wouldn't use during the school duel against Jaden. And Chaz can only use monsters in his deck that have less than 1,000 attack points. I know, that's a big, big handicap, but the president of the school agreed to this. And the president of the school is obviously Kaiba Boy, a rich snob trying to keep his school out of the hands of other rich snobs. All the troubles Kaiba has to do ever since the end of the world stopped being his problem. All I know is it's a really fun duel because Chaz goes to a well where people throw away cards that they thought weren't useful. And Chaz uses them to their full extent, and we get our first little glimpse of the Ojama brother trio. Really wish that they were done more with. I mean, they are done more with later on in the show, but this is a good intro for them. Not only that, but the way he demolishes his brother with all those rare cards by using weaker cards. It's just brilliant. And I really did enjoy the battle. It was fun. It didn't last that many turns, but it was almost one-sided and then a complete reverse. I always enjoy when characters can pull out a victory out of their behind. But this one was actually strategically done. So, good on you, Chaz. Remember to chaz it up. And I honestly miss his duels in the future seasons, and the rest of them weren't that good. So, yeah. On to the next. Season 2, when Crowler and Bonaparte believe that they're going to be fired for, you know, Shepard finding out all the crap that they've been up to, they seek employment elsewhere. And who to come to the island than Maximilian Pegasus, except without the evilness. Pegasus is such a great character, and we all love him. Yeah, we do. Anyway, to the duel, Bonaparte and Crowler ask him for a job. And he says, since he's got a meeting, if they duel both of them, if they win, he'll hire them. Which, honestly, having a 2-on-1 battle, we don't get to see that many of them where it's not evil cheating. Not only that, but he does add a little thing to the beginning of the duel in order to mix things up. The person who has more life points at the end of the battle will get a bigger office. And I just love how even without his Millennium Eye, Pegasus knows exactly how to manipulate people. And that's just good business sense, in my opinion. Because Crowler and Bonaparte kind of go against each other in the duel back and forth a little bit while dealing with the Toon monsters. And all honesty, the Toon monsters are some of the coolest and most annoying cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! In the anime, they're made a lot more interesting with the animation, and I love it. At one part, they do seem to work together a little bit. But then, yeah, Pegasus lets them have it in spades. And I do love the new additions to the Toon cards that are added, like Toon Shadow, Comic Hand, Toon Kingdom, Toon Briefcase, and all that. And I like how he starts off the duel with Toon Alligator like he did in his duel against Kaiba. And the one when he fought Alistair in the season 4. No, season 3. Yeah, season 3. So, it's good that a running joke doesn't stop. And it was a tune of a battle. In all honesty, it was a pretty fun midway episode duel. Next, coming on number 9 is honestly, normally, I would usually put the first duels kind of lower on the list because, you know, it's the first. We're just getting introduced to the characters and nothing really big happens. But the beginning of the show is, all honesty, okay, yeah, it's not high on the list, but it's one of my personal favorites, Jaden versus Crowler. In order to get into Duel Academy and to determine your rank, you must pass the exam by dueling one of the testers. Crowler, being sick and being irritated by Jaden's lazy ways and that he's very late for the exam, he decides to do it himself and using his own deck instead of the test decks, which is a big disadvantage because he's got powerful cards. And this is the first time we actually get to see archetype cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because throughout the first season, we didn't really get that many archetypes. See, GX is what cemented the archetype of dueling, having certain cards for a certain build. Jaden, being the hero, showing us his Elemental Heroes deck, which honestly was pretty fun and cool. And then Crowler busts out Ancient Gear Golem and demolishing his deck with a single monster half the time. Well, for the whole battle. And it's done pretty well. Not only that, but the big duel, but the big moment is when Crowler almost has victory. But then Jaden pulls a little bit of luck. And no heart of the card bullshit. I mean, it is, but not like as much as Yugi did it. And yeah. Although, gotta admit, great to have a cameo from Yami in this one. So, does that mean this was before Yami went back to the past? Or, I'm sorry, you're screwing up your own continuity in the first episode of the season 2 of the new season, my friend. So get your cards straight. Jaden busts out his ace Elemental Hero Flame Wingman, and this cements more fusion summonings throughout the show, and actually not having the rule that fusions have to wait a turn to attack and all that BS. Kaiba. Using the spell card Skyscraper to increase Wingman's attack points in order to defeat Golem and to use his ability to deal damage of his attack points, and just having the Gear Golem crash onto Crowler was epic. And it just occurred to me, if Crowler didn't use the confiscation card in the beginning of the game, which allows him to pay 1,000 points to discard a card from Jaden's hand, he wouldn't have had this situation. Because his life points went to 3,000, and then he took 100 point damage from the battle, and due to the effect, he lost 3,000. Okay, to be fair, we didn't know that's what was going to happen, so it felt like a no-lose situation to Crowler. But in all honesty, Jaden's first battle, in order to get into Duel Academy, he goes up against the Vice Chancellor, who's this alumni guy with a super rare card, and he gets demolished. That's what made me really love Yu-Gi-Oh! GX right from the get-go. The fact that it was this slacker who was late, beating one of the cream of the crop professors at the academy, and it's just done so well in a one episode battle. Because usually episodes like this is where you would get like a 2 episode, you know, for the final exam or something, but it's done very well. Next up on the list. Okay, yeah, this one was kind of not that much of a favorite of mine because I already knew what was going to happen because it's obvious. The end of Season 2 with the Society of Light arc and this Light Force alien that, all honesty, makes Xehanort look like a... Okay, nah, Xehanort's a bigger villain with darkness than light. This is what would happen if Master Ericus became an evil entity, basically. Because with all the light speak, this is what would happen. Sartorius versus Aster is honestly a really cool battle. I mean, we only got to see a little bit of the Arcana Force monsters, and I wish we saw more of them, like an entire deck full of them. But the battle between the Arcana Force and the Destiny Heroes was a really cool fight. They were going one-on-one with each other. In all honesty, it was really fun to watch. Especially when the big bad, even the big monster that was released, number 15, the Fiend, aka the Devil, because they can't use the word devil in Yu-Gi-Oh! For some reason, which honestly sucks. But the good point about this is that it finally gets kind of a battle between old-time friends that's possessed by evil entities. Huh. Wonder how many times they've done that in Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, they've done it a lot. But this one was actually really good because the good in Sartorius was in Aster for some reason. And the battle does kind of go both ways a little bit until it gets to the end where the stupid anime summoning conditions for summoning Arcana Force EX, the Light Ruler, and we don't see what happens, but we can all kind of agree that it just demolishes Dog Plasma, and that's why the battle ends. This is why it's very lower on the list, because, yeah, we all know Jaden was going to be the one to save the world and everything, because it's written into every single Yu-Gi-Oh! Main hero must win final battle. Next. Now this one is a little bit weird for putting it near the halfway mark, but in Season 2, Crowler started to enjoy having this Jaden around, and during the little couple episode arcs when he couldn't see his cards and stopped dueling, Crowler felt bad, and because him and Bonaparte were working together to try to get the Red Dorm out and get rid of the slackers, because a resistance of Bastion, Hasselberry, Alexis all joined to the Red Dorm in order to prevent it from being destroyed. Which kind of seems stupid, to be honest. So in a staff meeting, Crowler and Bonaparte challenge each other to a duel, and if Crowler wins, the red dorm stays, and vice versa for Bonaparte. We get to see another archetype called the toy deck, which looks like they could be done in practice if given more support, but I wouldn't hold my short little breath. So the battle goes pretty well as Crowler's busting out his typical strategies of getting Ancient Gear Golem out as quick as possible using Trojan Horse, which counts as 2 tributes for an Earth monster. Bonaparte's deck is basically using his toy soldiers with a bunch of traps in order to trick the opponent, using cards like Toy Cannon to switch Golem to defense mode, using Gulliver Chain to tie it down so it can't switch modes, and then using a bunch of other cards to allow him to attack directly while dealing maximum damage. Crowler realizes that Bonaparte's probably seen him duel a lot, but he's never seen his cards, and wonders if he was predictable. And also, with every time Crowler loses life points, Bonaparte's destruction crew destroys the dorm, and with every life point Bonaparte loses, Crowler's construction crew rebuilds the dorm. This seems really, really counterproductive, guys. Because what happens if it was a draw? Like, you don't know to destroy it or build it. It's kind of off-putting. But during this point of the battle, Jaden says that you taught us that good duelists think on their feet. If your strategies aren't working, try new ones. And Crowler gives Bonaparte a speech that doesn't just fit for the show, but it fits for all educators out there. And any of you who aren't educators, this is one thing that is a good lesson, the difference between a good teacher and a great teacher. And the difference is that a great teacher is one that can learn from his students. And I honestly agree with that. I cannot tell you how many times that I've been a difficult student to deal with, but as in college, when my professors were working with me, they discovered that they became a little bit better teachers for dealing with someone who has weird personality traits like me. Because not every student's going to be the ace. Not every student's going to be able to do everything. So by learning from one student, you can change your whole teaching method and become a great teacher. And honestly, the duel kind of goes extra well when Crowler busts out some new combos in order to basically, because when Ancient Gears attack, trap cards are useless, so that kind of works for his favor. And the final twist, when he uses the zero gravity and another card combo in order to dismantle Bonaparte's toy soldiers, it's a duel that's really, really fun to watch. And one of the few times Crowler battles where it's not stupid and it's not lame or cheating. I'm looking at you, Camilla. Yeah. And that's all I'm going to say for there. Coming at the next spot on the list is near the end of Season 1, where a lot of the cards kind of had a little iffy abilities, or it was kind of off-putting. But it's the duel between Jaden and Amnail. Okay, yeah, it's Professor Banner, the final Shadow Rider. In all honesty, this was the duel that I honestly didn't see coming. Although, once we saw Amnail, I'm like, yeah, the hair, honestly, I didn't know who it was, but then when it's revealed, I was honestly in shock, and hell, I was younger at the time when GX came out, so I was shocked. And finally, a deck where you had to remove your opponent's cards from the game in order to gain special effects. And all honesty, the cards that Amnail used were base pure alchemy because, yeah, he was doing the Philosopher's Stone thing. Oddly enough, Elric and Alphonse weren't in his deck. Next time. Basically, the battle starts off with Amnail basically using the trap Elemental Absorber and sending the 4 spirit monsters. Okay, not those spirit monsters, the elemental spirits that were the statues for Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monsters. A great video game, but a really annoying short series. By discarding them, he can negate the attacks of elemental monsters. It's almost like he knows all his cards. Really? And then it's revealed that it is Professor Banner, and that he's been a Shadow Rider the entire time, because he was an alchemist, and basically he gave his soul to the Shadow Riders in order to basically have a new body. Yeah. G, the guy who's been nice and hasn't dueled once in the show is suddenly a secret villain. Who could have guessed that? All honesty, I never really got that until I rewatched the show again, and then it kind of put the pieces together. Yeah. It gets even better when he uses the actual cards, and like Microcosmos and the Helios monsters, and some Bolt BS anime cards to destroy Jaden's cards. And then it really hits home for Jaden when Banner says that all of his duels were rigged from the get-go, so he would win and constantly, in order to get a spirit key, so that he could easily be beaten by Amnel once the other riders had failed. And this really hits home with Jaden, because it's near the end of this, almost at the end of the battle, and he's starting to doubt all of his abilities. That Crowler, Chaz, everyone, that it was just a setup so he could get a key. And all honesty, it's kind of believable, because a good majority of the duels, okay, it's not fully done, but again, he starts to realize that he did beat the odds with his own skill. And that's when he finally brings out Miracle Fusion to fuse Elemental Hero Electrum, which is basically the big middle finger to Amnel's strategy. Because once summoned, Electrum sends all cards removed from the game back into the duelist's deck, which reduces his Trimagistus power to 0, which one final attack, and he wins. And Banner apologizes for the comment he made. He just wanted to see if Jaden had what it took in order to save the world and save his friends and defeat him. And honestly, even though he's now a spirit lying in the cat's stomach, hey, don't look at me that weird. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! It's gotta be weird a couple times. It's a good battle between professor and student that, all honesty, was really good for near the end of the season 1. My throat's getting really dry, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Season 2 gave us some of the most unique duels ever. In all honesty, I really enjoyed it. I would really appreciate if some of these cards were actually made and given full decks. And I'm gonna say this, going into the future Yu-Gi-Oh! Ranking videos, anytime there's a deck out condition to win, I have to put it at the top. Well, not at the top. I will put any deck out on the list, because it's not winning with life points. It's winning by depleting your opponent's deck. And all honesty, I do love those. I mean, for crying out loud, I put Yugi versus Streets and the silent dude near the top of the list, because it was one of my favorite duels, because it dealt with deck out, because that's something that doesn't happen that much unless you're not paying attention. So, in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Universe, there are 2 types of criminals. Okay, I'm not doing a Law and Order joke just for the sake of the joke. It's Jaden versus the Lawyer X. And this lawyer looks creepy. He looks like the scumbag lawyer the scumbag lawyers hate. Yeah. And he not only that, but he, unlike a lot of characters like Johnson from the virtual world, X actually makes some good puns of court in when he duels Jaden. And his cards are pretty cool, focusing more on destroying his opponent's cards instead of focusing on life points and preventing what kind of cards you can use. For example, his main card is a trap after paying 1,000 points to play Monster Register. Whenever a player plays a card, a monster, the top cards of that opponent's deck are sent to the graveyard depending on the level of stars. In all honesty, that's pretty cool. That's a fun way of decimenting. So it starts when he plays Sparkman, which is level 4, so he loses 4 cards. And for Jaden, who needs his, obviously he needs his cards, but has an attachment to his cards, that's detrimental to the strategy. Not only that, but he uses monsters like Level Pod that once it's destroyed, return all monsters on the field to the owner's decks, shuffle them up, add up the number of stars on those monsters, draw that many cards, and if you don't have any monsters, you have to discard all the cards. And then cards like Purse with a Hole, which will take cards out of your hand until you're holding 5. And Trap Sloozer, which is a monster, which prevents trap cards, your opponent from activating trap cards. And then there's cards that prevent monsters from being destroyed, prevents battle damage. It's pretty ingenious, to be honest. Because like I said, deck out conditions are always good for me. Because it's something unique. Because yeah, winning with causing damage with life points is one thing, but to decimate your opponent's deck in such a cruel way, and the fact that this guy is Sartorius's lawyer, makes the battle even better. It makes it even better when Jaden uses the strategy against him by using Glowmoss's anime effect by putting him on X's field by attacking. If the opponent can't reveal the top card of their deck, you have to discard the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So Jaden having no cards in his deck when this works is fully beautiful. And using Diffusion to split Electrum into 4 different monsters to get 4 different attacks, and then Instant Fusion to summon Electrum to finish it off, to get rid of the last cards in X's deck, and then he ends his turn with a smile. It's just beautiful. This duel gets near the top of the list because of the way it's done, because again, it's a deck out win condition, and the cards that X use, I honestly want them. So that's a really cool duel for a mid-season battle. And now duel's adjourned. Let's get to the next one. Season 1 was honestly something really interesting. Some of the battles were very interesting. Some of them were very story-ish, for like one episode stories that Yu-Gi-Oh! Tends to do once in a while, where the one battle doesn't have anything to do with the story, or it sometimes does, but it's just for fun. Like, they did one with a giant, they did one with a Tarzan character, they did one with tennis. Oh boy. But the duel to decide who faces in the school duel, the duel between Jaden and Bastion, all honesty, was a really fun and intense duel for me to watch. For one thing, Bastion is the analytic guy. He'll create a formula in order to counteract someone's deck. And he's decided the one card that is Jaden's ace in the hole is polymerization. And there is a card that will stop Jaden in his tracks. It's not done right away. It's done near the middle, like near the end of the first part of the episode. Cursed Seal of the Forbidden Spell. Basically, it's like Magic Jammer, but permanent. Once it negates a card's effect, you can no longer use that card for the rest of the duel. And it being polymerization, it kind of detriments Jaden's overall win tactic. And Bastion's cards aren't that easy to deal with either. But it's fun seeing Jaden fight back a good number of times. And in the end, winning with a really risky move using Wildheart, a new hero that is unaffected by traps. And then using Bastion's own cards against him. Because he has Litmus Duel's swordsman, which can't be destroyed in battle, but if there's a trap card on the field, he gains 3,000 attack points. Yeah, and Wildheart, who has the spell Cyclone Boomerang with him, is Jaden attacks Litmus Duel Swordsman, but Wildheart's obviously destroyed and really detriments Jaden's life points. But Boomerang's effect will destroy all spell and trap cards on Bastion's field and deal 500 points to him. So it was kind of one of those risky moves that ends up winning the duel, and it was done in good form. It's a shame a lot of Bastion's other duels in future seasons aren't done that really well, which sucks because he's a really cool character. They kind of downplay him in later seasons, which, again, sucks. But it's a duel that gets really high on the list because they found a creative way, an actual legitimate way of getting rid of Jaden's ace in the hole polymerization. And this was revealed after studying Jaden's duels and cards in his deck and formulating a strategy around that, which honestly was pretty fun in all honesty, pretty in character for Bastion, being the formulaic duelist who comes up with a countermeasure for basically anything. Next up. Okay. It's been oh my god. It's been 9 entries and I haven't mentioned Season 3 once in 9 entries. In all honesty, for a Season 3 battle to get this high on the list, you really got to understand the story. But I don't have time for all that. It's Axel versus Supreme King Jaden. Basically, in the alternate dimension, when most of his friends go up in smoke for a ritual, Jaden loses it and becomes the evil Supreme King. Which, all honesty, I would love to see how that works. But it's one of those things that's not explained, it's not shown, it's just... it just is. It is. There are just things you have to accept. And after Jim tries to defeat Jaden, but with the new Evil Hero arc deck, it's proven more difficult. And with Jim gone, Axel is running scared, but finally faces him. And his Volcanic deck does a lot of burn damage right from the get-go. And the Evil Heroes battle against Axel's Volcanics. It's a cool battle to see, and it's one that you don't want either of them to lose. Because, yes, you don't want Axel to lose, but at the same time, you kind of don't want the epic villain to lose either. But all honesty, what happens is somewhat BS, to be honest. Apparently, Jim had this rare artifact eye put in so he can have powers or whatever, and it's, I don't know, plot, armor, convenience, I have no freaking clue. But near the end of the battle, it's almost a close match. With with the Supreme King launching one final attack on Volcanic Doomfire, which eliminates Axel's life points. But before that happens, Axel rushes to the Supreme King and puts the eye right on his chest. Supreme King is obviously, you've lost, what are you doing? And Axel explains it. From the graveyard, he activated the effect of Volcanic Counter. Whenever he takes damage by removing counter, the Supreme King takes the exact same damage he takes. So this is one of the few times where the duel is a draw. Which, all honesty, I couldn't ask for a better outcome with this kind of epic duel. And it's done very well. Which makes it not worthy of the top 2, but the top 3 is the intense emotion between Axel. Because before this fight, he had to go through a lot of obstacles to kind of regain his confidence and to fight for his friends. And then he goes into the Stardust. Axel was my favorite character of the new set of characters from Season 3. And the way they just did him dirty like this... yeah, no. No, thank you. Yeah, no. But we got Jaden back. Yeah, what was the upside to this? Okay. This one was really hard to come up with, but after going over all the videos and all the episodes again, a number 2 battle is something that's great, something that's epic, something that has a plot twist right near the end. In all honesty, this one doesn't have anything to do with main characters. The battle between Adrian and Ubel possessing Jesse. Which, all honesty, definitely one of the better duels of near the end of the season of the interdimensional world arc, which, oh dear Lord, I need to wash my hands with this. So let's get to it. Adrian tries to become the conqueror of this world after defeating Aster with the Exodia deck, which I hate Adrian for. Trying to do the same strategy against Ubel, possessing Jesse, with this, I don't know, Hot Topic Spencer's-ish outfit. I don't know. But them using the Sacred Beast deck, but revamped, and this to create Armatile. It's interesting. And then, some way, halfway in the battle, Adrian has this Fog King monster in this Fog Castle that kind of, which is honestly kind of cool in concept. And the battle goes a little long, and then without Armatile, without Armatile, he uses these generic monsters and all that, and then when Fog King's destroyed, Adrian goes back to the Exodia deck, goes back to using that, and for some reason, there's this bullshit that once he's got 2 cards and he plays Backup Soldier face down, which will allow him to get the final 3 cards into his hand, this darkness from his friend and love interest Echo, who gave herself up for his dream for Exodia. Wait a minute. Guy who's seemingly harmless tries to take over the world, uses his girlfriend Echo in order to use his scheme, which she gives up willingly. Nah, I'm thinking too much into it. Anyway, Ubel uses this ability to summon Grinder Golem onto his side of the field and to summon the 2 tokens, tributing them to summon herself, Ubel. So, you're able to get a Sacred Beast deck, generic cards, and Ubel into the same deck. Ubel attacks Grinder Golem, but due to her effect, she can't be destroyed, and any damage would be directed to the opponent. But for some reason, Adrian doesn't activate Backup Soldier immediately, which doesn't make sense. But I do enjoy the battle because it's long, it's back and forth, back and forth. It's a little bullshit half the time, but yeah. But you know what? Enough with this. Let's get to the number 1. It took a long time to come up with the number 1 list for GX. Mostly because half the duels are one-shot episodes. You can kind of see the twist coming. Or you can just basically whatever. But the number 1 is surprisingly not the final battle between Ubel and Jaden. Because that battle wasn't even finished. It just came out with this dumb BS scenario that ended the duel without showing how it ended the duel, and I don't even follow it. The end of GX is honestly one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in a Yu-Gi-Oh series. Yeah, I said the weirdest. Yeah. And that's not even explaining how Karibo manages to get a cameo in every single series. So I had to look back into the duel that made me excited, that had me shocked, that had me cheering, that had me surprised by the outcome, but still felt satisfied. It is the battle to end Season 1, the graduation match between Zane and Jaden. Both of them seeing each other duel numerous times. And it is honestly the best duel in GX, in my opinion. Because it's not the evil of the world. We're done with that. It's not the rival. It's the best student leaving the school, and because he's got the best grade, he gets to pick who he gets to have his final duel at the school with. And he picks Jaden. In all honesty, it makes sense. Because their first duel was near the beginning of Season 1. Jaden challenges him. He almost wins, but then Zane busts out Cyber and Dragon, and this is one of the few times when the hero loses, and it's not because of anything like trivial. Zane was just a more experienced duelist, and Jaden needed to learn more instead of just going about it full throttle. And this duel definitely cements that. Being as Jaden's gone through countless opponents, countless new cards, and battling the top student of the school for a graduation match, the stakes aren't high. Like, it's not like he'll graduate if he wins. This is just a fun match to end a student's journey. And they pull out every single stop. Elemental heroes going up against the cyber monsters, and just back and forth, and then it all accumulates with the ace monsters against each other. With Cyber and Dragon battling Flare Wingman, and their attack points go through the roof. Because Wingman does gain 300 points for every hero in the graveyard. And then using Power Bond to merge the 3 Cyber Dragons into Cyber End Dragon, and then doubling its points to 8,000. And then to attack, for good measure, he uses Liminal Removal, which doubles the attack points of machine monsters, to 16,000. And then Jaden fights back with the spell Battle Fusion, which lets Wingman gain the attack points of a monster that he's battling. So 16,000 plus whatever he had was an immense amount. And then Zane plays the same card, and again, even more grows. Like, can we put a counter on the bottom for what the attack points were? Holy crap. Honestly, without that infinite attack points BS from the first season, this may be one of the highest attacks in Yu-Gi-Oh history. But then, when you think Zane's gonna win again and beat Jaden, Jaden pulls out Final Fusion. With both of their fusion monsters being destroyed, they both lose attack life points equal to the attack points. And the big explosion happens, the music plays, and everyone is shocked. We're the duel between the worst student in the school and the best student in the school. The battle ends in a draw. Now that was something younger me loved to no end. Because as much as I wanted Jaden or Zane to win, having a draw showing that they're both at that same level right now, that was a fantastic way to end the season 1 and had me excited for what the rest of the season was going to have. Season 2 definitely pulled through. Season 3, a little bit in the beginning. But yeah, the final fight between Jaden and Zane definitely gets the #1 spot for my favorite GX duel because it's suspenseful. There's no big risk involved. There's no real threat. It's just a good old fight between the best student in the school versus Jaden. In all honesty, I didn't see the outcome coming. I thought maybe Zane was going to pull something out of his bag of tricks or Jaden was going to win because some BS. But to have it be a full draw is the best outcome between these two I could have expected. Although now that I think about it, Jaden is now still 0-1 on this because Zane did beat him once. So, yeah. And that's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe down below. And we start off the school year with a new set of videos. And to start it off, join me next time where we're going to be investigating in a private school where we are being warned to stay away. This is Gamer K, logging out.